So happy to have you here. Welcome to Dare to Share with Mistie Layne. I've got my kiddos with me. If you could have been backstage to see this production, trying to figure all of this out, you would have just been, it was so funny. So anyway, thank you for being here with Dare to Share with Mistie Layne. First, I want to ask you to go ahead and share this out to your family and friends. This is a show where I encourage everyone to step up and be that one to be transparent and share their life experiences, good or bad, so that we can use them as education to help each other judge less and mentor more. So you never know who out there might need to hear the message that's on there today. So I'll ask that you share that out. Today is a very, very special episode. We're going to be diving in here in just a couple of minutes with my kiddos. This is Lauren, Amber, and Austin.
So,
Hi. And we're going to be talking about some pretty serious stuff. It's all laughter right now because we just had a serious.
We almost didn't make it.
We almost didn't make it in here. But it's going to be a true, transparent talk, a family discussion, if you will, about some things that went on. So those of you that are new to Mistie Layne and Dare to Share with Mistie Layne, you haven't heard the story yet. I am the best-selling author of the book, What Goes Up, which is a true account of my life and the experiences that I lived through. I went from studying to be a surgeon to getting addicted to crack cocaine, ended up in prison behind a vehicular homicide charge where I was facing a 40-year sentence. By the grace of God, I was able to pull myself up out of that, got a lesser charge, did 2.5 years in prison, was able to come home to my loving family, and was blessed and graced enough with their forgiveness. I've already cried, and I didn't mean to cry this soon, guys.
Kleenex.
I forgot to grab that, Bubba, grab it. So this is going to be a story about what the kids went through. It was 10 years of basic hell. Being a runaway mom, if you will. And the story's going to be a little bit different for each child. There's a 9-year gap between these two and a 3-year gap between these two. So they know me from different perspectives. So we're going to get into all that. But just to jump back a little bit, I want to tell you, so everything about my stories in this book, What Goes Up, you can get it on Amazon. You can go to my website, which is Mistie Layne at Mistie Layne. Oops, that's my email. My website is mistielayne.com. Also, you can order on Amazon or any of your bookstores. Walmart and Target carry it as well. So if you want to do that, or you can get a signed copy right off of my website. That's the only place I can give you a signed copy. Also, I am the founder of the Be That One movement. So I ask you to go to the Facebook page, to the page hashtag Be That One, and join the group. We're going to be doing some exciting work in there using writing as therapy. I'm going to be doing some guides and worksheets with you guys. That's going to be starting up in a couple of weeks, probably in July. We're going to start doing that work. And then also my Right to Ignite Women's Empowerment Retreats are going to be starting up. The whole COVID thing had put a stop to that, but we're about to gear that up, and it's going to be so exciting, and I just can't wait to start that and let a bunch of women get together and form those bonds and just kind of ugly cry around a campfire and share our experiences and just talk real women to real women. So be looking forward to that for me. All right, so you guys see all who's here. If I can read the screen from so far away, I'm going to do my best. Let's see, we've got us joining here. Oh, Lucrezia Mercado. Thank you so much for being here. You were actually here early. I appreciate that. Sadiq, thank you. Sherry McQueen, hey, lovely. Thank you so much, Sherry, for all you do. Diane Cheswick, hi, Diane, thanks for joining. Kristen, hi, Kristen. You're such a strong, powerful, wonderful lady. Kristen was our guest last week. She was amazing. Hi, Brooke. Brooke is my graphic designer. Thank you so much, Brooke, for all your wonderful logos and all the work you've done. Hi, Susan. Hi, Melody. Melody from my high school days. Hi, Melody. Nice to see you. All right, guys, you can just keep commenting. I can't promise I'm going to get over there. I'm going to ask Lauren to try to keep an eye if anybody gets a new comment, because, you know,
We'll do our best.
It's a weird distance here. It's like they work, but they don't work. And which one do I need? I don't know. I'm right on the line. So we're going to see what we can do. Okay, enough of all that. So this is completely unscripted, guys. Normally for my show, I have somewhat of an outline that we go over, so the guest has some idea of the direction of the show. We don't always hold true to it because we're going to go where we need to go, because I feel like it takes us where it needs to. So, but for today's show, it is 100% completely unscripted. We have no idea where we're going. I thought we would just kind of, as a family, figure it out along the way, because that's kind of what we did throughout all those years. So, I'm going to start out first. I'm going to go to Lauren. She's the oldest, so she gets to go first.
I feel like that's completely
And
unfair.
sorry about it. I'm going to preface Lauren talking by saying, if you've read my book, which some of you on here have, many of you that actually on here have, you know that I give Lauren a lot of the props for helping me when I was in that dark place in prison, because she's the one that gave me the advice to write all my worries down and give them to God and let them go and to forgive myself. Those words were the catalyst to me getting better. Those words were what allowed me to free myself and start writing my own story in my book, which further healed me. So first of all, I have to say thank you so much, baby girl, for everything. I love you, darling.
You too. I'll go off of that a little bit because Mom, throughout her sidestep journey that she took, she kind of popped in and out of different facilities for a while, and I held a lot of anger in the beginning. I think I was in 8th grade when I finally confronted her and sort of asked her one day, "Are you on drugs?" And the letter that I had wrote Mom, telling her to write things down on a piece of paper, put them in a bag, and let them go, was actually probably one of the only times I had actually ever decided to reach out while she was in a facility and communicate with her. She had sent me a lot of letters, a lot of cards, birthday cards, and I never felt like I had anything to really say to her. I was holding a lot of anger as, a teenager, a very young teenager, going through what I was going through. So the fact that I actually decided to have the right words to send to her, I think I kind of tried to time my timing to where I had the right things to say, and when I felt like they were going to be the most useful instead of bashing. So I think that was probably a big one for me, because I know I failed to come and see you a lot. I think I only actually came to see you one time, and there was a lot of, I think I just couldn't see you in those places. I think that was a little hard on me too. So
How old were you at this time?
which time?
What time were you writing the letter?
I'm not even lying, I can't even remember.
Were you out of high school, or this was like when you were still in high
school? I think it was still when I was still in school.
2007.
It was 2007.
So you were a sophomore.
I graduated in 2006, so I had actually just graduated. So
here was my 18-year-old daughter that I had just missed her high school graduation because I was incarcerated. Yet she still reached out to me and got over her own anger to try to help her mama. And to me, that's just miraculous in itself.
5 years, though. It did take me 5 years to get to a point where I felt like I had the right things to say instead of making a situation worse for Mom. I wanted to mature a little bit to where I knew I was being positive and not throwing a bunch more negative, because she was already dealing with enough negative in her own way. So it took 5 years from the time I actually asked her the question, "Are you on drugs?" to the time I actually had words of encouragement to give her. That was a 5-year total. So it's a long time now that you think about it.
Now, I want to talk a little bit right there about how, the way I remember things and the way I always describe you kids is, growing up, you were always the kid that when I came home, like I would run away for 2-3 days at a time. If you know much about a crack cocaine addiction, it's the devil. And once you take that first hit, you pretty much are a physical slave to it. So to get home in itself is a huge task. So I'd stay gone for days at a time. When I would finally make it home, I would look a hot mess, be a hot mess. They probably didn't even recognize it. They were probably disgusted by me when they saw me.
Scared for me.
Scared, okay. But Lauren was always the one that would confront me and give me shit in my face, basically. She would be pissed at me out loud. Amber, on the other hand, was, "Oh, I love you, Mom. I'm so glad you're home, Mom. I love you." No matter what I had done to her or caused in her life, it was always, "Oh, Mama, I love you. It's okay, Mama." But yet she walked around with her hands in these balled up fists constantly. She is a very successful athlete, and I think that her balled up fist drove a lot of that. So Amber, if you would, let's talk a little bit about maybe your mindset. Why was it always just okay?
Well, I think even though we're only 3 years apart, I think we had a very different outtake on it. I think, because I mean, think about 3 years as a 12-year-old versus a 15-year-old. That's a major difference in where you're at. And I think for me, honestly, you always tell me I'm a very black and white person. I just see things for what they are. And I think, honestly, I was that way because I don't actually remember ever being angry or mad. I think I saw it for what it was, even if I might not have known, hey, it's a cocaine or it's this, but I saw it for what it was, I guess. And I knew the situation in a way as best as I could. And I think that for me, it was more so just, I knew you were not yourself. I knew the kind of mom you were. We got to see the kind of mom she was. She didn't do it too young to where we didn't know. And for me, I think I saw the struggle in it, and I didn't want to, I don't know if I that I didn't want to burden you more, but I don't, when I think back on those times, I don't remember me being angry. I think if anything, I felt bad and I felt sad that she had to go through this. And so I think for me, I was always loving and nurturing because I saw it for what it was, I guess.
Because you saw her sadness and you saw what it was doing to her
Yeah, and I think,
emotionally every time she came home, how upset she was because she'd be gone. And then I think you were feeding off of mom, is what it sounds like.
kind of, but I think, like I said, I think even back then, I think maybe not, you might agree, I was always really kind of mature for my age, and I think I just saw it for what it was and knew it wasn't her doing these things, it wasn't a personal attack on us. I think I saw it as her not having control and her not being able to control what she was doing. So I don't see it as having anger. Like when I think back on it, I just remember thinking, this sucks, she has to go through it, let me be there for her kind of thing. So.
Well, Amber, I think that's a beautiful thing to say, and I don't want to attack you, okay? I'm going to be
You
transparent.
make me sound like a bad guy.
But honestly, like I said, maybe you were more angry because you were more mature and learned to see it as more of an attack on you. You saw her not around, and for me, I think maybe I was caught in the middle age of maybe not being old enough to really be angry about it, and maybe not being too young to not. I don't know. Like I said, when I think back on it right now, my memory is not a lot of anger. It was more so, I was sad that my life, when I had to move and when I ended up having to go to Texas, like I was sad that I, left my soccer team, I left my cross country team, things like that. But it wasn't ever like a direct anger for what you had done, I guess.
Oh, I remember the day when you told me, I've had it with you, Mom. You were in 8th grade. You had been invited to try out for the U.S. Soccer team. The Olympic soccer team forms at a very young age. They start by state level, and they audition by state level. And Amber was invited to try out for that. And she came to me and she said, I'm giving you one chance, Mom. This is your one chance. If you screw it up again, I'm out of here and I'll never live with you again.
I don't even remember.
And that summer, I screwed up again. And she left to live with her dad in Texas and she'd never live with me again.
But see, and that, I didn't want to go to Texas at the time. I didn't want to leave my life. And I do remember that because the way I was told kind of sucked. Like, it was like, I didn't know I was moving, and I had like 2 weeks notice that, hey,
Mom's in jail.
you have to relocate now and you have to pack up your life. And so, and me not coming back wasn't because I couldn't, it's because at that point you were in jail. There was no option to come back. So.
Right. Well, when I said earlier, I don't want to attack you, I just wanted to go back and you talked about how you never was really angry, but if that were the truth, Amber, why you walked around with your fist balled up constantly?
For some reason, I don't remember any of that. Like, I don't remember being angry. I don't remember having my fist balled up.
It could just been the way she was channeling her emotions, though, too. Have a kid that pulls her hair out, literally, and it doesn't mean she's angry. It's just how they cope.
Yeah.
And if you don't even remember something
that's what I'm
doing
saying,
it,
I don't even
then it's
have
just
any
something
recollection
a
of it.
kid, because you gotta remember she's a kid at this time, that a kid is just learning how to cope with their emotions. Instead of going up and punching a wall, she was out there kicking the hell up some soccer balls.
Maybe
or running across country.
And maybe
no, seriously, that's how she learned to channel.
And maybe because I had that like athletic
outlet,
maybe that's why I didn't have the pent up. Maybe that was a release for me, and maybe that's how I got it out.
See, and for me, I know the anger part. I don't think it was so much that she was on the addiction. I think it was more because being the oldest, I felt like I had the responsibility. You know, Austin was still in diapers when all this was going on, and I felt a huge responsibility to look after my siblings. And I think the anger really came from, it's not fair to me to have to be acting like a mom. Why can't I be out there doing the soccer balls and doing everything else? Because I felt a different type of new responsibility. And I think I was pretty pissed because as a 13-year-old, I should not have been playing mom. And I think that's where my anger came from. I don't think it was more or less like you had the addiction. It was that you were gone, forcing me to be something I wasn't yet. So
that's justified anger.
Yeah.
Very justified. Now, let's move over to Austin because this is a whole nother
you remember
scene.
anything from diapers?
This is a whole nother scene for
His came
you.
way
Because
later.
you, as Lauren said, or no, as Amber said, they got to know mom before the addiction, so they knew the kind of mom I was. You were born during my addiction. That's the only mom you knew. You didn't know this mom until you were in 4th grade. So let's talk a little bit about that for you.
Well, see, the thing is, I feel like the script was flipped completely from like Lauren to me.
Yeah.
Because when I was born, I didn't remember anything bad that happened. Like, to me, I had a very stable childhood. I grew up with Nona and Papa. Like, I went to a private Catholic school. Like, I had a good childhood, right? And I didn't figure out any of the stuff that happened up until sophomore year of high school.
Well, you didn't wonder where your dad was or where your mom was? You didn't?
I mean, I did, but at the same time, it really didn't play that big of an effect on my life.
But I was in and out of your life.
Maybe
I
that's
was
why he
in
doesn't
and out.
remember you
But
as
I
a
don't-
constant.
You were in and out when he was so little, he wouldn't have
Remember.
remembered it.
I
By the time you
remember-
were fully out, he was.
Yeah,
You get what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't old enough to
yeah,
remember
it was in 3rd grade when you came
So
back.
he remembers Nona and Papa as his waking up every day, going to bed every day, constant.
Like, I remember certain
You don't
snippets.
remember
I remember, I remember certain snippets. I remember
I don't remember you from 2 years old either.
Come on. He was like a baby and
I don't need to laugh. Come on, that's not right.
I remember snippets of, I remember you, I remember Joey. I remember, like, we would be in the trailer, I think it was in West Monroe. I remember the house that we had. I remember the house that we had right next to the forest, right? We would all go out there. I remember kicking out crawfish holes
So
behind.
you do remember.
Yes,
Yes.
but in
Was
the
that
same,
Eunice?
that was in Eunice.
Okay.
That's where it was.
See? I
But-
remember you playing basketball and stuff.
Yeah, I remember all of that, but like I said, that's just like, it just comes and goes. But I was with Nona and Papa when I finally started, like, I remember everything from 1st grade on up. I remember. Right? And from 1st grade on up to 4th grade, I had a good life. Like, I was happy, I had friends, like, I did everything. And then I was always wondering, but you sent me letters all the time, but I didn't know what was happening.
You would cry.
I was told a story that I believed in, saying that you were in a hospital, saying you weren't doing too well,
Sick. Mom's
and
getting better.
Nona just kept reassuring me that that's what was happening, and I was like, well, I mean, I didn't. If I would have known the truth, I would have had a whole different opinion and outlook on that
Well,
story.
stop. Okay, so if you would have known the truth, would that have been better for you to know the truth?
Probably.
I feel like it's hard to
But
say.
would you have been able to cope with the severity of it at that age, though?
I don't.
But you see what
I
I'm
don't
saying?
know.
So it's kind of hard to say it would or wouldn't have changed anything.
I feel like I would have been more.
I feel like maybe you would have had less resentment for the story that was created. I think maybe that would have been the only thing.
Because when Mom told me, I was pissed.
Well, wait, Mom, when we told you.
Y'all.
I wasn't there.
Mom, yes.
I wasn't there.
Yes, you were.
all there when
I was a chicken, and I didn't want to tell
told me in the
him.
living room.
Oh,
It was
wait,
Easter.
that's right. You
I
told us
wasn't
first, and then we all
there.
came the next day to have
We
an
got
in-depth
Yeah.
Easter. We had
I was
a
just like, I
family
wasn't there when
conversation.
you
No,
originally
you
told
told me
us.
in the living room by
Okay.
myself.
It's because we had watched a movie, and something in the movie, it just
something
triggered my
from
heart. I said, this is the time. I struggled for years when the right time was to tell Austin. See,
But I've already known.
my mom had told him this lie. She thought she was doing the right thing, and you know, I love her for everything she's done, but you can't live in a lie. You just can't live in a lie, and that's why I push transparency, because we have to own up to our truths. All of us do. living in a lie, it makes you feel ashamed and it's wrong. And
So
then he
I have a
resents
question
it.
then. Then
Okay.
why'd you wait till junior year to tell me?
There's a lot of reasons for that. When I was in jail facing a 40-year prison sentence, Nona and Papa took custody of me.
Yes, I know
I
that.
didn't have a choice in the matter because I thought I was going away 40 years and they served me with the papers.
Yeah.
So even though when I got back home and started rebuilding my life and you lived with me, they legally still had custody and they held that over my head.
Yeah, because didn't you have a parole officer that came by?
Yes, I
Yeah,
was on
I
parole
remember.
and I did all of that.
There were a lot of times where mom would talk to me and Amber and be like, I really want to tell Bubba, but you know, he's in the scouts and I don't want there to be any backlash on Austin. I
Yeah.
remember
Kid.
she did, Austin. She came forward so many times to get opinions and to talk. She didn't want anything to change for you.
And I think that because we had to go through it, maybe she wanted to shelter you some from it until you were old enough to really process it.
Yeah.
Which again begs the question of, what's the right age? And I think you can't pick an age because every child's different, every maturity level is different at every age.
Every situation
You
is
don't
different.
know the
Yeah.
right age. So she tried to just wait, feel it out, and just kind of when the moment hit,
Well,
hit.
It did hit, and what I it hit. We were watching a movie, and like I said, it was just he and I were just alone in the house one day, and it just hit me, and I said, "This is the right time." It was put in my heart. I felt it, and I just told him, and I have to brag because I'm so proud, and you never know what his. I imagined all the different scenarios. Thought he'd be angry. I even told my husband at the time, I'm scared to tell him now because now he has his license. What if he takes off and never comes back? I mean, all these things. I was petrified to tell him the truth, honestly. So, but what my son did is he said, "Mom, are you okay now?" That was his very first words with tears. Is "Mom, are you okay?" Not "I hate you. How could you? You lied to me." But "Mom, are you okay now?" I mean, come on, guys.
But
That's beautiful.
But that's also not the first time. That was the first time that I knew for 100% fact that was the story.
You always
But
had
growing
suspicion.
up, it's not even that I had suspicions. I've overheard
I was gonna say,
conversations
you
with
probably
Dada,
heard
Jean, and
things.
Nona
Yeah.
over where she was. Like, I think I started putting the story together when I was in. When did you third grade?
Just when I came home.
I think fifth grade. Fifth grade is when I was like. I started to get different pieces of information because remember you had people visiting all the time. You would get into fights over. Did you ever get custody of me back?
No, I never,
Okay.
I never legally did it because no, I had you, so
Yeah.
I never worried with it.
I didn't know.
And it gave Nona comfort. No one really knew if I was going to relapse again because I'd done it so many times. At one time, a year and a half, I did fine, and then out of nowhere, boom, I was back out there. So for Nona and Papa to have that stability,
Yeah.
I never worried with
Never
the
having
papers.
to
Because I also remember we weren't allowed to travel, right?
We had to get it when we
Yeah.
went on our first cruise. I had to get a letter because they officially had custody.
Yeah.
I had to get a letter from them. Yes.
Because I think I had seen that, and I don't think I was supposed to, but I remember a lot of certain stuff, and I just started putting the story together.
So why never ask? Like if you overheard conversations, like as you got older, maybe not ask in fifth grade, but as you got older, the more you heard.
I don't think I would have
I-
either.
Really?
I didn't.
Maybe I'm just the.
I didn't want to. I think it was. I just didn't want to know. I just didn't want to know if that's what was actually happening. And when Mom actually told me, I didn't know if she was clean. I didn't know because think about that. We're just sitting in the living room watching a movie, and she tells me this. I didn't know if she had relapsed. That's what she's telling me. If she needed help, I didn't know if she was okay.
That makes a lot of
What was
sense.
the biggest part of what I told you shocked you the most? The fact that I was a drug addict or the fact that I killed someone?
It was definitely the drugs for me. Definitely the drugs for me. Because I can't see that.
And see, that's
I can't look at you and be like, what?
Because you never saw me like that.
Yeah, and that's why I was
crazy,
like,
you just don't, like I said, because we got to know you before, you just would never guess it, and you just
Yeah.
get
The typical
you hate to say
profile.
that there's a stereotype or something to it, but you just
Definitely
don't
is.
seem like the kind of person that would ever fall into that. And I think that's why your story has so much power to it as well, because
There
it
are
just goes to
people-
show it can affect anyone.
Anybody.
Like you might have the picture perfect life, you might be doing your best, and it can just hit anyone out of nowhere.
And this is what this show is all about, guys, because I say all the time, it may look great on the outside, but what's going on the inside is just volatile. You just never know. And people are in pain. We are all in pain. But the bright side that I want to share here today is that if we're transparent and we're open and we're honest, we can work through the pain and we can have a beautiful life on the other side of the adversity. It's what we choose to do with that adversity, guys, that's going to make a difference. Let's take a short break here and let's recognize. Hi, Sherry. Thanks for being here. Terry, my best friend. How you doing, Terry Childs? Sam's on here. Seal Duvall's on here. Hey, Seal. Let's see. Hi, L. Patrick. What, L. Patrick? Happy birthday. You know, he's always almost. So I'm surprised he didn't say Austin's almost 21 already because he just turned 20. Who else? I can't see any further. Okay. So anyway, this is what we're talking about. If you're just joining, my kids are here transparently sharing. We're just having kind of a roundtable discussion about some of the things they went through and felt. Now I want to move into this part of the life where mom came home from prison, rebuilt my life. I've managed to stay off the drugs now. Now they're finally getting a little bit of security that I'm here to stay. With Lauren especially, out of all three of my kids, I've had the hardest time with
Single
Lauren.
me out again. That's cool.
Well, I've had the hardest time with Lauren because she was really angry at me and she was hurt. And here she is, she just graduated high school. This is the time when you need your mom, and she didn't have me around. And therefore, you know, she had the love of her life since, you know, little bitty, 8th grade or whatever. They are married today. They found each other and came back together. It's another whole story. But she, so what ended up happening is Lauren started leaning on him, on Henry, and everything that went on in her life, she leaned on Henry. And so when I was back into her life, even though I'd been there for years, she wouldn't lean on me. She had a hard time confiding in me. She had a hard time trusting that I was there to stay. And this is,
I still do. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
Well, transparency. You know, when I don't know if everybody knows this, but I'm gonna throw this out there because this was actually a very scary point for me. But we lost my oldest daughter, Eliana, back in January, and I've known mom to be this proud woman who's picked her life back up, but there was a really deep part of me that thought anything traumatic in mom's life could send her back. And that is a constant fear for me. I'm not gonna lie. And I really thought losing Eliana could have been one of those triggers. I mean, I know what it's done to my life, and that's a whole different story, but you know, that was your first grandbaby, and that holds a weight. And the fact that you were able to go through something like that with me and not resort backwards was a big thing in my book, because it could take anything.
it can.
I mean, it literally can take losing your job, or, you know, getting to a certain point in your life where you're just like, I'm just not in love with myself anymore, and I'm not in love with life anymore, and you just start going backwards. I mean, there's a lot of changes that have happened big changes that have happened in your life in just the last 2 years alone.
Yeah.
And any one of those things, I have been afraid could potentially send you back. I'm not saying you're weak, but sometimes the drug is bigger than the person.
It's always bigger than the person. And let me say right there, Lauren was saying, you know, you could lose a job, you know, guys, it's as simple as it could rain. It could not rain.
Well, I can't speak on that.
I mean, it could be something very simple to send us back into addiction. That's why it's so important that we do the work to heal what's inside. There's a big hole there. My belief system is addiction is not genetic. It's not predestined. My belief is that we have pain that we're trying to run from or hide or cover up. I used Little Debbie before I discovered cocaine. Cocaine worked way better. Hey, so, you know, that's what got me.
I think there's also.
Oh my gosh. I have no idea what that was.
It was very loud.
I'm sorry, something fell.
I feel like there is an initial, I feel like the starting of an addiction probably has, like you said, it's more about personality, it's more about things like that. But I feel like once you start the addiction, there is a genetic component to it that some people may get triggered more by it. I don't think a genetic disposition leads you to try it initially the first time. I think it is an event.
And this is coming from the brand newly accredited Dr. Amber Hoffman, who just got her doctorate nurse practitioner, nurse anesthetist license.
You're still the little sis.
Yes, I agree. And Brian's on here, Brian Raprinsky. Hi, love you. Hi, Lauren, love you both very much. maybe Brian could comment. He's a doctor. He does psychology work, and maybe he can comment a little bit further on what his belief system is on that.
But I feel like I still have the same concerns as Lauren, where there's times where I worry that, and you know, the further out we get, the less it's on my mind, but especially when you first came back, and again, not like Lauren said, not because you're weak, but just because we know that, you know, it's the drug. You have no control over what you do when you have it. And it's just, there was times I definitely worried, like she said, if she came home late or, you know, I didn't hear from her. And that's always going to be in the back of my mind. No matter how far out we get, you can't help but having that, because it's something that you could go 40 years without doing it.
It's a traumatization that you've lived through.
And then the second she tries it once, you can go right back into that. So it just takes one time.
And that's true. It does just take one time. That's why I'm going to say again, it's so important, guys, that we do the work to heal what is painful to us on the inside that we're using the drug for. We have to. Now, for Austin, you don't even know this fear.
So that's
you've never witnessed that kind of fear with your mother. So what are the things? Do you have any concerns today?
No.
After hearing these things,
because I've never had to. Like I said, I basically had I had a safety net. I've never had to think about that. Like even today, like I trust you. I don't think you're going to, but I've also never seen the part where they probably trusted you and you let them down.
Many times.
I wasn't there for that.
Too, like it was just always so random. Like you never knew when you weren't going to come home.
Yeah,
So
let's talk about that for just
she
a
would
minute.
be home for a couple of weeks, and then
It would
all of a
always
sudden
be
she'd be
random.
gone for a week.
Let's talk about that for just a minute, because with Lauren, I think if I understand it right, her biggest tragedy was the day I left her in a Kmart shopping for Christmas presents and left her there. Because I was gonna run around
Cart
the
full of
corner.
presents.
I was gonna run around the corner, meet my drug dealer, and come right back and have the drugs for the next day when everybody was at work and school and I could get high in my house. But
Didn't even
I
wait
took
that
a
long.
hit. Well, because you can't. I took a hit and that was it. I was gone, and I left my baby girl in Kmart. No cell phone, nothing. Thank God she was able to get in touch with my husband at the time.
This is
because
why, not just because of issues like this, but this is still why it's very important that you should memorize important emergency contact phone numbers and not rely on your contact list on your cell phone.
this is true.
But that's the problem. It was that random. So
Yeah.
he never saw you disappear. But like
Well, no.
Time out. Stop. Let's go around the table because there is. For you, I think it was the time I left you on the soccer field. And the reason I know that is because when you went to visit my sister in California, you went out there and spent a week or two with her, and she told me that you went out in the middle of the pasture and just screamed at the top of your lungs. You were so angry. It just all came bubbling out. And you talked about, and you told her about a time you were left, I didn't pick you up from practice in the soccer field.
See, I don't remember that either. I remember going to Terry's and spending a week with her, but I don't remember screaming in a field or any of those things. But again, maybe it's just I was that one that just pinned it up and then released it and then went back into the cycle of it, or you know,
Kicked the hell out of the soccer ball.
So
And for Austin, now this is tough. Let me a second to catch my breath because I know what you're going to say here. And I don't think this has been said yet anywhere. So go ahead, let me have it.
Well, no. Well, the weird thing for me was, so I have a very, very, very distinct memory, which wasn't real. Well, which was not told the right way about my father, Joe. Nona and Papa always told me that when I was young, I was left in the park by my father, and he left because he didn't want me anymore. That's what Nona and Papa told me. So in my mind, that's where I grew to hate him. And come junior year, when we were sitting down, Mom and I were talking, and I came to find out that story was completely wrong, and that Mom had taken me to the park, and then she got in her car and drove away and left me there. And I was sitting there by myself with no one to talk to. I was terrified. I didn't know where anyone was. I was so confused, and I was just left there. I could have been grabbed by anybody. Like anything could have happened. I think I was there for a couple of hours too.
When was this? This is when I was in Eunice.
we weren't there.
And I had relapsed, and we were on our way back. I'm so sorry. No, you're mad. I hear it. And I took him to the park for a minute to play, and then I got a call from my dealer, and he was right around the corner. So again, I didn't want to do a drug deal with my son in the car or near me. So I just ran around the corner, took that first hit, guys, and it didn't go back to get my son. And the next call I got was from a sheriff wanting to know why I was there. And I didn't even realize 2 hours had gone by. I just thought it was a few minutes.
I'm glad nobody grabbed you.
I am too. Because I remember, I was there for a minute. I was there for a
So
good little
how
bit.
old were you at this time? Because if you were already in Eunice, we were living with Dad.
I don't remember.
First grade.
Like I said, I don't remember. I can kind of
remember.
picture it. I can
I
kind
do.
of picture it, but
First grade. I know exactly what it was.
I was living here in first grade.
This was between kindergarten and first grade.
Okay.
Yeah, must have been.
Because right after that,
Brandy says, I am in recovery myself and have 2 children who have had to live through my addiction. Kids are resilient, but the guilt and shame from our actions is hard to come over.
it is
Overcome,
hard.
sorry.
It's hard, Brandy, but yes, this is painful for me today still, but we can overcome it. And we have to keep that in mind and keep working towards it. Because if you look, there's a lot of pain here, but you guys don't miss seeing all the love that's here too. There's a lot of love here too, and forgiveness, and kids are resilient. Keep doing the work, Brandy, and be open and be transparent with your kids and listen to them, listen to their pain. And in my case, I'm just so thankful my kids learned from the mistakes. Now, you have kids that are rebellious that instead go out and try to out trump you and be the worst drug addict or a better alcoholic or whatever it is. So far, my kids have all proven that wrong and they've used my mistakes and learned from them. So be open and honest with your kids, Brandy, all the way through it, honey, all the way through it.
I think I was also still way too young because I wasn't even mad at you then. Like, I just didn't think of anything of it. I just thought that,
I just didn't understand.
yeah, I was way too young because all I remember was, there was a lady at the park and she was like, are you here with them? I said, I don't know. I just remember saying, I don't know. I don't know where my mom is. And then, they called the cops.
Yeah.
Asked me what my name is, looked up our address, called you. And I didn't think anything of it. I just had up until you did, and when I moved in with Nona and Papa, that's the story they picked because I remembered that. And they completely flipped the script in my
Blamed it on
brain.
him. That's
Blamed
not
it on
even fair. Joey's done a lot of shit, but that's not fair to put that on him.
And that's where most of my resentment from him comes from, from that story.
That's why you guys, we can't lie to our kids. We can't make up stories. We have to tell them the truth, no matter what their age is. I think that you can still protect them in a shielded way with the truth. I don't think it was fair for him to be lied to. Now there's other reasons he's chosen not to have a relationship with his dad, but he just said out loud, that's one of the biggest reasons why right there, and it was a lie. So although Nona and Papa felt they were doing the right thing, I'm not here chastising them. They did what they thought they should do out of love, but let's learn as we go through. That's why we share these stories, so we can learn from it and do better. We just need to do better and be better.
I think a lot of times parents make the mistake of thinking that their kids don't know what's going on, and they do. Like he said, he's overheard conversations. You might think your kids are sleeping and they hear things, and you might think, they're not old enough to understand it. But I mean, there's several instances I can think of as a kid where it's like, I knew what was going on. I knew
Or
what
at the
was
age of
happening.
13, straight up asking.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
had a
you
choice
gotta give
there.
your kids more credit because they might know a whole lot more than you think they do. They don't know how to process it or to ask you, but they might know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you gotta gauge it on every kid and where they're at and what you tell them, but just don't make that assumption that they don't know nothing just because they're not asking or they're not showing you.
Let's see, Brandy says again, I left my daughter to dance competition once. I totally understand the things you did. Addiction is hard. It's hard for people to understand. We love our children. We never meant to hurt them. That is true because every single time I said, I don't want to do drugs anymore. I want to be better. I love my kids. I meant every freaking word. I meant it. I had every intent in my heart of never touching a crack pipe again. But you guys, the drug is stronger than love. It's stronger than love. For you out there that have someone right now that you're dealing with in your family or a loved one or a friend that's going through an addiction and you feel that they just must not love you because they're choosing the alcohol or choosing the drug over you, That's just not the case, guys. You will never win. You will never win over the addiction. That's just the beast, the nature of the beast. So find another way. Don't throw ultimatums. Don't say, if you don't stop, I'm going to do this, because
It doesn't work.
it doesn't
Yeah.
work, guys. It's never going to work, and it hasn't for years. So find another way. Maybe transparency is the way.
Well, and I can say this too. I mean, I remember everything from pretty much day one to now, because of my age at the time. And the way I relived it was bad for me. Okay. When I read this was a whole, like, I didn't even know how to process what she was going through. I just knew the experience from what I was going through with her having an addiction. Be patient, guys, because if they want to come out of it, they will. If they don't, then they're not going to. But from what I thought of my childhood and reading what my mom was going through, that is two completely opposite ends of the spectrum, and you're not ever going to have an idea what that person who's addicted is actually going through. You just see your side of what that person is showing. I know it's gonna be hard to hear, but I remember mom coming home several times and her lips would literally be blistered from the way she was doing her crack. And it was a very visually scary sight. And she would go up to her room, she would sleep for days, and I think she would shower. I really honestly don't know. We kind of stayed away from her. Just be patient. I know that's a really hard thing to hear, but you're not going to heal someone for them. You can be sternly supportive, emotionally supportive, and you can be there when they're ready to climb out of it. That's really all you're going to be able to do to help. You're not going to be able to make them change their mind. And that sucks to hear, because there were so many times I just want to smack her out of it and be like, wake up. And it doesn't work like that. She had to be ready. A situation had to happen where she hit her type of rock bottom, and she decided to pull herself out of it.
Let's talk about that, Amber, for you, and then we'll get to Austin. We're starting to wind down here. What was your reaction when you read the book?
I had a lot of the same. I didn't realize a lot of the things, because again, I knew it from my point, and I saw a lot of what happened, but I didn't realize a lot of what you did when I wasn't around. So what Nona and Papa went through really surprised me, and the things that happened with all the family members and different scenarios, and a lot of, what you went through. Like, I knew that there was the abuse. I remember that. I have very vivid memories of that.
You have memories of abuse
with Joey.
Joey being abusive with you.
I remember very vividly one time when I think maybe we were in Austin.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Both came home, and we, like, again, an example of kids know more than you think. Like, she might not have thought we were ever paying attention, but I knew what was happening. And I very vividly remember one time, I don't know if they were in an argument, he didn't actually hit her at the time, but I grabbed a can of, I don't know if it was beans, some kind of canned food, and I must have been maybe, 7? And I threw it at him, and of course, a 7-year-old girl,
because I was in 6th grade.
so he caught it. It's not like, I was going to do some damage. And I remember he reared back, and I just remember for like a quick second, like, oh my God, he's going to throw it at me, hit me in the head, and that's it. And he turned last minute and threw it through the wall. There was a hole in the wall. But I just remember thinking I wanted to protect her, and I threw the can, and I just thought, the look in his eyes and the way he reared back,
It was the rage.
You need to listen when your children speak to you. If you ever bring somebody new around, I very specifically remember after we had moved to Austin, I was putting clothes in the very bottom drawer of my dresser, and I remember looking at Mom, and I remember telling her, he's gonna hurt you really bad one day. I remember 2 days later, a few days later, after they had been locked in her bedroom for several days, she had finally come out, and she was curled up behind the couch, and he was kicking her. I remember this night. She was curled up in the fetal position, and he was kicking her in her stomach. And I'm in 6th grade. What do you do? He's locked the phones in the bedroom. You don't know anybody because you've just moved to a new town. When your kids tell you that they have an off feeling about somebody, please listen. Kids have a really good sense about good and evil. They really do. They really do.
Now, this is the guy we're talking about, for those of you that know, is Austin's biological father. He doesn't really know him much, so I'm sure this is hard for you to sit and listen to.
Not at all, because I remember one night we were in the RV, and Joey had put me in the bedroom, and you know how the bedroom is kind of like those sliding curtain things.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing you scream, and I remember him starting to get loud and yelling at you. And I remember looking like tilting it back, and it popped open. He turned around and said, "Get back in that room before I come back there." And he came back there, slammed it closed, and I peeked out again to make sure you're okay. And he took up his big work boot and he threw it at your face. And I remember you falling to the ground after that. And I was beyond scared for my life, but I was also so pissed off. I didn't know what to do. And I sat on the bed crying. If I went to go help her, if I was actually going to be able to do anything, or was going to make it worse for her, if I go out there and try to do something. And I was young. I wasn't going to be able to do anything about it. And I didn't know what to do. I was petrified.
And this is so sad, guys, because there's so many people out there in a domestic abuse situation with kids that are witnessing it, and this is without a drug addiction. The kids are even scared to talk to their sane parent that's not addicted to drugs. Here, my kids have a mom that's cracked out all the time, and they don't have anybody to talk to about the abuse that they see, especially Austin. They had their dad in their life, but he didn't have a dad in their life. And the dad he had was, he was sick.
But I was also swiftly moving into Nona and Papa's house. I was only dealing with that type of situation, I think, for maybe a year. I remember moving around a lot with y'all.
Well,
I remember that. And I remember Nona and Papa coming to get me one night. And after that, that was it. Like, that was just it. I stayed with them.
I think that's what cushioned us a lot too from, other people that go through this that don't have that other support system. Having Nona and Papa and all the people, even Jean and everybody,
Yeah.
we had so many people there to catch us every time, ready to pick us up. So for us, yes, it was obviously traumatic and we had to go through things, but at the same time, we were immediately thrown back into a normalized situation. And it became normal going to Nona's and Papa's, and we were already such a close-knit family that staying with them for a few days or doing things like
Didn't
that.
really see anything out of the normal until it started happening a lot more.
And maybe that's part of why we, turned out pretty okay, is that we always had somebody there. We had our dad, we had Nona and Papa.
CPS didn't take us and throw us into a foster care system.
It might have been a whole different outlook if we didn't have that. So other people going through this that don't have that, and maybe had to grow up in foster care might not be as forgiving.
Which really goes back to be there for your loved one who's going through this, because they're gonna, whether they have kids with them or not, they're gonna need support to bounce back too. If you cut all ties, that's just gonna kind of make that person sink further, because they have nobody that's there to catch them when they're ready to bounce out.
Not just that, it's important for us to make amends. And if you're not there for us to ask to forgive us, then how do we make that amends? That's important. It's an important part of recovery. Yeah, it is. So do you have anything more you want to share? Let me see how much time we have.
It is
51-21.
How do y'all see that? I can't.
we have eyes.
Oh, whatever. Okay. All right. So Austin, let's see. What are some things that you want to say, son, about looking back? No. Let's redirect. So let's give some tips to people that are watching that might be in a similar situation. How, for you, it's going to be different than for them. But let's start with you. What advice would you give the kids that have parents?
I don't really, like I said, I don't really have it. Like, I had a good childhood. I wasn't worrying about where you were, because Nona and Papa were taking care of me. I don't really have input on that. And even when you told me when it was junior year or sophomore year, like, I was well old enough to be like, that's not you, right? Like, I was because I've lived with you since second grade. So, I mean, I never really had to cope with the fact that this was going on. To this day, I don't think I ever have, besides that one day.
What about with Joey?
Well, I was 2 years old.
But I mean, there's still things that need to be addressed and coped with today with you.
I haven't talked to him since then. I can't.
He doesn't have the experience to really
Yeah.
talk on what you're asking him to.
Okay, so then let me ask you a different question.
All right.
When the book, I tried to protect you, I waited a long time to release the book. I
Right.
wanted you to graduate from high school first because, like Amber said, I was afraid of the backlash.
Mhm.
I didn't want you to be picked on. I didn't want you to be known as the kid with the crackhead mama or whatever, the prostitute, whatever it was. So after you heard the truth, you were determined and you said, Mama, you release that book now. Somebody might need to hear your message now. Don't wait. I can handle it. So let's talk about how your kids, because you had a close group of kids in the drum line and in soccer, and then a lot of them like to spend time at our house. What were their reactions when they started to learn this about Miss Misty?
Taken back. Taken back. I remember, I think the person, and this is probably not who you're going to think it was, the person who was shocked the most was Selassie Kennison.
Selassie.
When I told Selassie, and he was like, what? Like, he could not believe it. He couldn't, I still don't think he believes it to this day. He's like, there's no way.
Because I was the soccer mom. I was the mom that went on all the band trips. I chaperoned. I went on out of town band stuff. I mean, I was very, very, very involved, which I think sometimes they resent because I was not around at all for their high school years. There's a lot of animosity. That's going to be a whole nother show. There's a lot of sibling animosity. Whether they don't want it to be, they love each other, but just the circumstance, there's a lot.
She's the favorite.
She's not the favorite.
Just to tease you, because I
They
just had
say
to.
all the time that Amber's
They
the
may
favorite.
look alike.
But she's really the favorite. Austin's the runt, and I'm just the one that gets called out all the time.
No, you're all the favorite.
It's really crazy
Called
how
her
different
right.
all of our experiences were.
Oh, 100%.
Because,
Yeah.
and even me and Lauren, yes, we were together a lot, but there's times where she lived with my dad and I didn't. So it was just me and mom, or me,
It was
mom, and
really-
Austin.
I don't think I've ever lived.
It was really hard for me
Very
to
different.
actually visualize, because we spent our whole childhood together
Yeah.
until we didn't. And I think that was really weird because, growing up back then, you didn't really have a sense of a big change that was going to happen. You just think it's going to be this little tight-knit home environment. And the fact that it still blows my mind that me and her never actually lived together this entire time growing up. Like, it's weird that we actually lived in two separate places.
Yeah, and I don't remember, when did you move away and why? Was it your
Because I
choice and I chose to
I
stay,
chose
right?
to move with
And
dad
I
the summer
chose to stay.
before.
They came and picked her
until
up from me and
mom
Al
could no longer.
Which-
I ran.
So like I
I
said,
did
there
it before.
was times where we all experienced it together. We all three lived together. Then there was times where we all had very different experiences because we lived with her at different times and just different phases. So it's kind of crazy how different our takes are on this.
See, when I remember growing up, is I remember living with you. I remember growing with Amber. I think I was too young when we lived together.
You'd
I
be
don't-
a lot different if I had lived with you.
Probably.
She's the tough strict one.
I am. I'm the mama. Like, I'm the mama over my sibling.
Very strict.
But before we do go, I know Amber still has a part that she's gonna say, but before I forget this, yeah, because we went from Austin, we're gonna go to you, but we're gonna skip you for a second, because I wanna
But you're the
I want to
favorite.
say this
But you
while
get
it's on my
skipped.
Saving the
mind.
best for last.
I want to touch just a tad bit on forgiveness. I don't want to get into this big lengthy
3
thing,
minutes.
but I will say that I have given mom forgiveness a long time ago, like true forgiveness. I know it wasn't you, it was the drugs. Our situation was just crappy. That's the cards we were dealt. But I will say to anyone who has accepted forgiveness, you need to truly accept forgiveness, because there have been a lot of times where I'll have an event where something happened in my life and you'll come back to me and say, well, that's not right. You're just doing this to punish me. You're just doing this because I did this to you so many years ago. You have got to learn to accept my forgiveness and move on from that.
And you do that.
And
a lot,
that
actually.
is not fair for you to keep throwing things like that back in our face.
Yeah.
We have
That's
other reasons. So if you're out there and you have truly accepted someone's forgiveness, truly accept it for what it is. It's not
Don't
fair
take every little
to
event.
keep throwing
Yeah.
it back in if they've given it to you. That's what I wanted to say, because that was very important for me to
All right,
say.
Amber, you
So,
got like a minute and a
What's,
half.
I don't even remember the question.
I don't think there was one.
what advice would you give kids
Oh yeah.
who were in
I
our
mean,
situation, or whatever you want to say?
Or just to help mend the family, like to stick it out, to
I guess, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, there's not really a good thing you can, like Lauren said earlier, there's nothing you can do to fix the situation. And I think, like you said, every time you'd come home, I would be the one that was like, it's okay, I love you. And I think that, again, because like I said, I knew the mom she was before. I knew even at a young age that it was not her doing these things to me. It was not a personal attack against her not loving her kids. Like, I think I understood that it was something, I didn't know it was drugs, but I knew it was something that was out of her control. And I think I was always the loving, nurturing one because I just wanted her to know, like, I could see it, I could see the struggle, and that she's having a hard time. And just, try to show them, like, try to understand that it's not about you, it's about what they are going through. And that's all I can really think to say.
Well, there you go, guys. I mean, from the mouths of babes, right? These are not the strongest, most incredible kids ever that I've been blessed with. I mean, truly they are.
We're not perfect.
Well, she's the
I mean,
We've just been through a lot. We've just been through a lot.
They've been through a lot, but you know what? The message here is, guys, no matter what we go through, we can't let it get us down. You have to remember the windshield in the car in the front is bigger than the windshield in the back, and there's a reason for it. Eyes forward, eyes forward. Don't focus on the past. Don't focus what you've already been through. Look ahead, guys. You make your own journey. You make it what you want it to be. You have the power. You just need to learn the tools to make it happen. This has been incredible. I feel like it went by way too fast. There's so much more. If you guys would like to see a
Season
second,
2.
if you would like to see a second show with the kids, comment that for me and let me know what the feedback is. And if it's something you want to do, then maybe I can
And maybe they can
pay
ask
on
questions.
Maybe I can pay on to come back.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions that you would like us to touch base on, through your experience, maybe you need some guidance, or maybe just a good question you can think of that we obviously haven't, let us know, and we can definitely come back and touch point on it.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank them, Lauren, Amber, and Austin, so much, because I know y'all both, you two, drove quite a ways over to get here. You had to find a babysitter. I know it was
I
tough
have a
on you.
husband.
Well, I know, but I mean, still, he works. But
Yes.
I know it was a lot, and I appreciate. And Lauren had made a comment before. I don't want to just keep rehashing the past, but it's to help other people. It's not about us anymore. It's about the viewers, and it's about the lessons that the value you can take away from the show. So thank you for daring to share with Mistie Layne. Thank you all for being here and joining us. Please share this out, you guys. This is some powerful, powerful stuff here that it may touch somebody's heart. I love you. We love you, and I'm gonna be signing off now. Thank you all for being here. I can't even see the thing. But
I was like, that's
I'm
kind of
trying.
This is kind of what it was like pre-show also. Is there a button I can help you find?
Hey, look, Jimmy and Angie's face. Those are the masters at
You're
Papa
supposed
Jingle.
to be.
Is it time? Oh, it's time. Okay, guys, it's time. I love you all. If I didn't get to recognize that you were on here, I'm sorry. I couldn't see the screen. I'm 52. But I love you all so much. Your relationship is beautiful. I love you, love you. We love you all too. Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Do you find it, Mom?
Lead chat.
Wait, no, I have to do this. What? I gotta do this.
An outro?
No, I have to do yes, and that's what it's called, an outro.
What